Quite a while ago, I started to get asked all the time to try out viewer cars, and that's fine. So I thought I would create this own channel. Now, I've checked out a few of these previously when I see them pop up, but I thought, you know what, let's make a bit of a series where I just show randomly your cars. And I thought I would start in order with, I mean, I've already tried this one, but from the cars that are here. Now, not all of them will work because I've left it quite a while before making this video, and today we're gonna try them out. As a note, this isn't a replacement for the viewer challenge. I will do that when I'm not coughing so much that I have to edit out maybe 30% of the video just due to coughing. So let's see what we've got here. So these are the cars. This one, this one, this one, and this one. First on the list is the Atlas V12. Nope, that one doesn't work. All right, so the Atlas V12 didn't work, which would be this one by Gordon Freeman. Instead, we're gonna go with the Rio GBR by Broken Ursa. Now, apparently this is one of 3 rally cars. First, to have a look at the looks. You know, there's a mix of modern and old. So this looks like a 90s kind of like bulbous kind of body shape that you would get. But then you've got this really sharp indented headlight, so it doesn't really match. And then you've got this like 70s muscle bonnet type thing. And then this 80s side grille type thing. It's a big mismatch. I do like the roll chassis bars though. You will notice in rally cars, however, that the rally's co-driver seat will be a little bit further back. That is so then they don't really get in the way of the rally driver's view. Also, I think to help with weight balance or something like that, I'm not sure. Let's give it a bit of a try. Oh, this is a very quiet car. Oh boy. Oh, the other thing that we've also got how much the car costs in automation. So this car costs $690,000 and it creates less than 500 Newton meters. Oh dear. Sorry, 500 kilowatts. Wait, no, that's PS. That's basically horsepower. Oh, okay. So that's creating 435 PS, which is basically horsepower. So it costs a lot. Looks like it's made out of aluminium and whatnot. That doesn't seem right. How does it cost so much? What sort of engine are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a 4-cylinder turbo with a race type intake, all-wheel drive. Is it carbon fiber? I can't tell what it's made out of. Damn, bro. Its weight is not particularly low. It's about 1.1 tons. So it's not very light either. Let's double check that that's the price. Hold on, this can't be right. GBR 0. Yeah, $690,000. Beyond me, guys, beyond me. I don't know how it costs that much. Oh, that turbo lag. And we have ourselves a manual transmission, which is good. Oh, this thing is not happy. All right, we're gonna have to switch to manual controls because this thing yeah, has so much turbo lag that it just doesn't really know how to deal with things very well. Or drifts, but not quite as much as what I'd like. So do we like this car? I don't know. It seems cool and fun, but also like really hard to control. Oh boy, when that turbo kicks in, boys. Oh dear God. So let's see how it does out here in the rally instead. And we're gonna switch it over to manual control, which I'm not very good with when I'm doing it with the controller as well. But okay. This car is, oh, okay, not an amazing beast, if I'm honest. Its turbo lag is the sort of thing that back in the day you would deal with because you needed that extra power. But in modern day, cars were really spoiled. So I think this thing suits the era in which it's meant for, which is Group B rally. And we've lost the rear wing. How does this thing handle now? Oh, okay. Maybe I'm just not good at handling this vehicle. This would take way too long to handle compared to how much time I'm gonna spend with this car, because we got 4 cars to go through today, and the automatic control of the gearbox just doesn't work when you've got this much lag. It hates it, and it has a hissy fit all the time. Oh God, oh yep, and then it spears you off because it changes gears mid-corner. I suppose it's time to give this thing a fill score. And let's start with styling. I would say that this thing's eclectic taste probably hurts it quite a bit. There's no proper splitter diffuser area on the rear, no proper front splitter on the front, which you would have had for this era, and the interior is not really your daily sort of driver sort, and this is, I suppose, a weekend category, so I can give that away a little bit. The sticker really does help punch up the score quite a bit here. So I'm probably gonna give this a 5 out of 10, or maybe a 6 out of 10. As for the acceleration from the beginning feels really flat due to that turbo lag, but once it starts going, this thing is quite fast, especially since it doesn't weigh a huge amount, though it's not some sort of lightweight machine. It gets a 7 out of 10. As for the handling, well, I would say that you can't really separate the handling and the acceleration here, so you're gonna be running into some problems sometimes. You got a little bit of understeer. Actually, you know what? There's a lot of understeer here. This is... Okay, so you got a trade-off here. You got a car which is comfortable to handle, but also you've got a car that is not going to be some sort of trackability type car. Woo, yes! Oh, that was fun. Oh dear, yeah, that was awesome. Oh, and we need ABS, apparently. So, handling is probably only going to get about a 6.5. The fun factor is pretty good though, as you saw the drift was pretty good, and that ability to be able to just blast somebody at the traffic lights. I would say that this car gets probably a 6.5 out of 10 for handling, and its fun factor is probably a 7.5. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, there we go, brought it back. The cool factor, well, this is a Group B rally car, and that is kind of infamous now for being like a really cool and really dangerous race series that everyone seems to forget was a murderer of rally drivers. Like, so many people died, and they just think about, oh yeah, this rally car is cool, I like it. I mean, I love the cars, especially the RS200, but at least I respect the fact that so many people died. It was incredibly dangerous, and that does make you feel a little bit sad about it. As for the trackability, it's Group B, so it's already going to get like a massive down points. A massive amount of down points there. But it is fast, it is manual, it does have downforce, and it doesn't have more kind of high-speed instability yet. So I would say that this car probably gets somewhere around maybe a 7 out of 10. Let's move on to features. It has a speeder, so it gets a 1 out of 10. Comfort. The suspension in this thing does look very hard. So as a daily category, this thing is not going to score particularly high. So I'm going to give this probably a 3 out of 10, because this is a race car. The quality of these things were generally only meant to last like a race or two, and as you can see there, all of the parts fly off whenever you crash, so it gets a 5 out of 10. The practicality, so you've got a lot of boot space. As you can see there, it's stripped open, but you've only got 2 seats, so the practicality is not particularly good. Then again, it is a rally car, so you want to forgive it, but this is the daily category, so it gets a 2 out of 10, 1 for each seat. The value of this thing, I would say, is a 1. It costs way too much for way too little. And the ongoing cost for these custom one-off rally cars or like short production run is going to be absolutely horrendous. So I'm probably going to give this thing another 1 out of 10. And that gives us our final fill score. That is not as high as what you'd like, but I suppose it is an old car, and we are comparing it to new cars, as per how Doug DeMuro says. I mean, I'm not ripping off Doug DeMuro, I don't know what you're talking about. Shut up! This is once again also from Broken Ursa. It looks to be the same body, except a little bit more modernized? It's a little hard to say. It does mostly just look like a paint job, headlights, and a little bit of a front splitter. This one costs $103,000, and it generates pretty much exactly the same power. So maybe this is just a different variation of the same car. Is it still all-wheel drive? Still all-wheel drive. And it weighs a little bit less. This only weighs 1.05 tons. That's metric tons, by the way, not imperial. All right, let's give this one a try, see if it's really any different. So we still got the bog off the line. It's not particularly amazing. Engine sounds exactly the same. This one is a lot more oversteery. Oh dear, oh, this one is a lot more oversteery. Oh, I can't tell yet whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I suppose we'll find out. That's why we've taken it to the test track, so then we can actually test the car in many different scenarios. As for now, it's more lively and more fun on the track, but a little bit more scary. But we have the ability now of coming over to do a little bit of dirt track testing on the same track. So we're not going back to Douglas Rally. That one took way too long to load for some reason. It never used to, but I do have a new install of Windows since I've had the Douglas Rally mod installed. Okay, so it doesn't turn quite as sharply as what I'd like, The turbo lag makes it really hard to kick the tail out at any point in time with the automatic transmission. So we're going to switch over to manual now. And we're going to make our way around and down. Okay, so it does kick out a little bit. Oh, but oh boy, does it bog. This thing bogs horribly. Is it because it's exactly the same situation, or is there something else to it this time? Okay, we've got a down ramp here. I have to go into first to get this car to be lively. Oh god, oh god, oh no. Well, we seem to have bended a little bit, guys. All right, let's try to get down here being lively. Oh god, what the hell is that? I don't even know this part of the track. Is this a new part of the track? Anyway, let's, oh god, that is purely off-road. This doesn't handle quite as well as the other one, if I'm being honest. Something about it just, oh boy, it's just not as good feeling. Off-road at least. On-road, it feels good. Off-road, it feels bad. So I think this, you know what it is? I think this might be the tarmac version of the rally car. They may have had like two similar but different setups, where they have one for tarmac and one for bitumen. And it's too hard to have like a multi-setup from automation to BeamNG. So I think maybe what he's done here is just given me two different cars, one for bitumen and one for dirt. Oh, god damn it. So I suppose it's time to give this thing a fill score. And we brought this one to the handling track because that's the sort of thing that they would have used. And I love handbraking this thing. So we're going to start off with the weekend categories. Starting with styling, this thing is a lot more fitting for its age. The headlights seem to fit correctly. The front splitter looks a lot better. Got some really cool decals, even if BeamNG can't handle automation split color system. I don't know whether it's BeamNG's problem or automation's problem there, but yeah. So this thing is probably going to get about a 6.5 out of 10 for me. It is that 90s bulbous, and I don't really like 90s bulbous. People in the 90s didn't like 90s bulbous. I just realized I didn't have game audio on. So guys, this is what the engine sounds like this entire time. So, a little buzzbox, what you'd expect from a 4-cylinder. Moving on to the acceleration, you got pretty much exactly the same thing. Huge amounts of turbo lag, and then a pretty decent amount of power. 400 horsepower may not be supercar, but it is nothing to sneeze at. So, it probably gets around a 6 out of 10. The handling, you got a mixed bag, so you've got a lot better tarmac handling, which is where most people are going to be driving this anyway. So, it gets a 7 out of 10. You know what, actually, let's give this thing a high-speed test. All right, let's see how we do now. Oh, it tops out. Oh, that's problematic. Oh, dear. But at least it is quite stable, if a little bit under stereo top speed. So, I think this is a good trade-off. Now, how does it... Oh, no, this thing needs ABS horribly. Horribly needs ABS. Fun factor, this thing is pretty darn fun in the corners. Being all-wheel drive, you don't have to be too scared about drifting it, and it seems to always pull itself out. So I'm going to say that this thing probably gets somewhere in the vicinity of an 8. The cool factor, it is a Group B again, but I get the feeling that this was probably made after Group B actually ended, so the cool factor is going to be a little bit lower. Probably going to get a 7 out of 10. The trackability, though, I would say is pretty decent, though that top speed is quite a hindrance. It gets a 7 out of 10. All fairly decent scores for that total. The daily categories, though, oh, this thing is going to start hurting again. Features. It has a radio. Yay! It gets a 2 out of 10. Comfort. Once again, you're dealing with pretty much exactly the same thing, except I think the suspension here is a little bit softer. So, it gets a 2 out of 10. Quality of these things are fairly good, but they're generally only meant to last a race or two, so it only gets a 3 out of 10. Practicality, once again, 2 seats, that's basically it. And you do actually have a divided rear area, so you can actually hide the things that you're trying to put in your boot, so people don't just go, oh, that's what I'm going to steal today. It gets a 3 out of 10. The value of this thing is considerably better, so it gets a 2 out of 10. The ongoing costs, though, are still also going to be really horrendously bad. It gets a 1 out of 10. For a total score, that's, you know what, not as bad as what I was expecting, and now it's time for us to move on. We got 2 more cars to go. Here we have the third car from Broken Ursa. Let's quickly have a bit of a check here. This car is $195,000. I see a lovely looking V6 and what looks to be probably an aluminium chassis. This engine is naturally aspirated. Okay, so we'll have to look out for that, huh? See how much power this thing creates. Though it does have a big grate up the rear here, which would make you think it's rear or mid-engine, but it's not. Same with this ventilation. Why has he made it look like a rear engine? He's even got like the big front scoop here, which is usually used to get the radiator cooling through here with a little bit of extra downforce because the engine is usually not there. So this is a very peculiar setup. I don't understand why they've done that. I think if this thing was a mid-engine or a rear engine, this car would be absolutely phenomenal. But he is using the Honda CRX body, which is a body I really like. So I'm gonna have to commend him here, even if the proportions do look a little bit weird. I do get the feeling though, having such a short wheelbase, this thing is going to be problematic in the higher speed corners. Also with the fake front downforce, I don't know whether they knew that was fake or not at the time. When was this sent? Early in 2021. Okay, so they should know about fake downforce if they've been watching my videos. I do like the placement of the rear wing, though it should probably be a little bit higher so it doesn't really impact rear visibility at all. But let's give this thing a bit of a test. But let's keep it on the handling course for now. I've also just noticed that this thing has modern mirrors. This is the sort of thing that you got in the late the late noughts, or the late noughties, where the indicator is placed not just generically on the side of the fender. So let's give it a bit of a try. This thing feels really fast, sounds gorgeous if I do say so myself. Oh no, that doesn't make sense. I love the sound of a good V6. Whoopsie daisy, that was entirely my fault. Did you see that fender flex back into place? Interesting. Let's give this thing a good proper hard go though, going the wrong way around on the handling circuit. This thing really needs a handbrake to get sideways, to get turned around. Otherwise, like, this is what it's like without a handbrake. You have to slow down quite a bit for it. Because this thing locks up and then understeers quite badly. But, you know, it's not the worst car ever. I just feel that this thing, yeah, you end up with that. Also, a little bit of, like, lagging there. My computer's not handling recording currently very well. Oh, there we go. It feels a lot faster when it's going sideways, honestly. This thing is quite mad. All right, let's go take this thing to do a bit of a high-speed test now. Right after we do this corner, because I want to rip a handbrake. Nope, okay, that time I didn't want to get sideways at all. All right, let's try this one. Rip the handbrake in sideways. Yes, oh, that feels so good. Except I banged it up. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna make a guess here. The front splitter does nothing, and the rear wing is real. So this thing is probably going to understeer as it gets up really high. But we've got the really short wheelbase, so I get the feeling that it's also going to want to oversteer. So we might end up with a decently balanced car when we reach the end of the road here. So let's see how the Slingshot handles this car, and let's see if we got the same top speed issue as the other car. Yep, same issue. But how are we going around here? We're doing pretty... Oh no, understeer, understeer, understeer. Okay. Well, too much downforce. I think if this thing had probably half the downforce on the rear, this thing would have handled really well. Maybe on maybe on dirt, this thing would have handled a lot better. All right, let's give this thing a good hard try on the dirt then. I do like the fact that this thing doesn't have a ginormous amount of turbo lag, which we got with the other one. So it does have a much better throttle response. And I do know that Group B was kind of split up, like, you can either have a small turbo engine or a larger naturally aspirated engine, and then you'd fit into certain categories. It was a unique setup. Everyone just ended up going with turbo power and just dealing with the turbo lag. But honestly, if you're not the best rally driver in the world, you're gonna struggle with that amount of turbo lag. Even my own, like, Baton Special, I love the fact that that thing had turbo lag. But I knew that you had to be a phenomenal driver to be able to actually handle that thing. Wow, this thing handles so much better than that other car, those other cars. This, I would have to say, is the better rally car, unless you're doing like a high-speed rally, and maybe it'd help if you're a good driver. This thing also creates a similar amount of power, but you don't see quite the harsh peak, and the torque line, which is the one that's arguably more important, is actually dealing pretty well here. All right, let's give this thing a fill score. On styling, I would say that this thing with its Mitsubishi Evo cross Honda kind of styling here, I would give this car about 7 out of 10. I think I would give it probably a better score if it was actually mid or rear engine. The acceleration is pretty good. I do like it. Without that turbo lag, I would say that this thing gets a 7 out of 10. Maybe even more. Who knows? 7.5. The handling is fairly good, though you do get quite understeering in the upper speeds. I would say that this thing earns probably about a 7 out of 10. If you're saying these all sound exactly the same, this thing has trade-offs, and we are comparing it against the newest cars like Ferraris, the Ferrari LaFerrari and whatnot. The fun factor is quite high though. I do like this car. I would say that this thing gets an 8 out of 10. The cool factor also, this thing feels as if it's kind of that early era of the rally categories after Group B, the WRC, except for the fact that it isn't a WRC engine. So I don't know what sort of rally car this is meant to be. The body styling really suggests that this thing is after Group B, but they said it's a Group B, so I'm gonna, I don't know, 6 out of 10. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. The trackability, though, I think this thing is gonna be much better on dirt and on bitumen. I'll say that this thing gets an 8 out of 10. Moving on to the daily categories, the features. Well, it doesn't even have an interior, so I'm gonna say that this thing gets a 5 out of 10. I know, it's just because he doesn't have the interior showing, but this is my thing. Let me make jokes. The comfort is probably a little bit better. As you can see, the car has a little bit more wobble to it, a little bit softer. So I'll say that this thing probably gets somewhere around a 4 out of 10. Let's see how it deals with going over curbs, because that really does show how cars deal with things. Also, it feels a little bit more controllable under lockups. Yeah, as you can see that this thing takes bumps a lot better. So I would give this thing, you know, maybe even a 5 out of 10. The quality of these low production Group B rally cars, though, are generally not the absolute best. So I'm gonna have to say that this thing probably gets a 5 out of 10. The practicality, I have no idea. It is a very small car, but it is a hatchback, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10 for a rally car. It does have the head bulbs there, so you can fit your ginormous heads in there if you're really tall. Oopsie daisies. Oh dear. Well, that brings us to value. Oh, yikes. This one isn't worth very much now. This car is $195,000. For that sort of money, you'd feel like you would get a lot more. But I suppose this thing was tuned to an nth degree back in that sort of period. Oh, that's fun. That is so much fun. You know what? Extra point for fun. But I'm gonna have to say that the fun to cost value is not particularly great, especially in the daily categories and everything. This thing is probably only going to get about a 3 out of 10. Nah, 2 out of 10, this thing hurts. That's a lot of money. That's Ferrari cost. So let's go move on to ongoing costs. Once again, these low production run engines are going to be a lot to maintain, especially with an old engine like this that revs to 9,000 RPM in a V6 configuration. This thing is not going to be great, especially with probably what's custom tires. This thing is probably going to get a 1 out of 10 for that. Oh my god, this thing is so much fun, actually. Another point for fun. Wait, is that going over 10? I don't even know anymore. But that is a much better score. But now, finally, we've got the fourth car, and this one is coming from somebody else entirely. We've finally moved on from the one guy that uploaded 3 cars. A big, ugly-ass van that looks really interesting. This is $21,500. You've got a splatter on the windshield, so that's fun. Ew, you know what? It looks like the sort of splatter you'd find on the windshield of a free candy van. I love the fact that he's also got the exhaust kind of like come up here and strapped with like proper mufflers and everything. That shows a lot of initiative here. The interior is... oh wait. Is that meant to be like that? Or is the exporting... I think the exporting is glitched out. We're probably gonna have to ignore the back end there. That doesn't look right. The interior, you haven't gone really for the sort of seats that you'd find in a van like this. The dash though looks pretty good. And 140 kilometers an hour top speed until 200, that seems probably realistic for a van like this. I think this thing, like all the little details, like the badging, the headlights I think are probably also exported incorrectly. I don't know how that happened, that's weird. The completely custom front bar area here looks kind of cool and interesting. The front visor that you would get on these old things, that's fun. The lights on top, which I don't think are exported incorrectly. I think that was deliberately like that. So then they would look out at the right angle. I think they've done that correctly. Let's give this thing a bit of a try. So, I haven't felt how much power this thing has. Let's give it a try. Oh, that's a lot of power going through the rear wheels. Oh my goodness. Oh, this thing is just doing so much burnout. Oh my god. Wait, also it's got a rear wing? Or is that a lip? You know what, that'd actually be a lip and not a wing. Also, yeah. Oh, you know what it is? I think this is meant to be extended out further, and that's not extended. So I don't think that's an export problem. I think that was an import problem. Oops. So we got a 5,500 revving engine. I get the feeling that this is probably a big lumping V8. Let's give it a bit of a look, shall we? In here, a big lumping V8. And it's push rod. Oh, I appreciate your truthfulness here. And you haven't just gone for a unrealistic type thing. That's lovely. Also, you got the big radiator here. I think the radiator would be a little bit further forward though and not punched into the engine quite like that. The weight as well. That's what, about 1,600 kilos? Nice, I like it. And it's got rear drum brakes. I love it. You got double wishbones on the front and a solid leaf sprung axle in the rear. I love you, bro. This is put in by Aisha? Aisha? I don't know how to say that. I would have said Aisha, but that's IA, not AI. You've done a really great job. You've done so many things correctly. I do appreciate it quite a bit. And what sort of gear lever do we have here? Dildo. All right, let's see what sort of transmission this thing has. Is that a manual? Yes, it is. Either that or sequential. I'm gonna guess manual though. If only it had imported correctly and had the back extended. I can't be bothered going back and doing it, I'm sorry. Well, just imagine how good this thing looked. Oh boy, this thing has way too much power. And to get that much power also from such a, oh, you know what it is? I think this thing has radial tires. Oh dear. Oh dear, so maybe it's not like a huge amount of power. Maybe it's just a fair decent amount of torque with maybe an upgraded cam, because this thing revs a lot higher than what you would expect a 70s engine to rev at. I think this thing revved a little bit lower, had a little less power and a little more torque. This thing would be just spot on. I'm also getting a lot of one wheel peel, so I do feel as if this is an open differential, which is so accurate, and I love it. This thing is fantastic. This warms my cockle. You've created a period accurate car. You haven't just gone ahead and just gone, I want this car to have this. This is done so well. How much power does it actually have? Oh my god, this thing creates way too much power. That's over 300 horsepower. Maybe if this was a 60s car, you might be able to say that, but this is a 70s looking body, I think, and that leads me to think that this thing would be in the fuel crisis era, so it would probably create considerably less than that. What you could say though is this thing was modified heavily by the following owners, where they upgraded the cam, upgraded the carburetors, all that sort of stuff. Let's have a look at the carburetor setup we got on here. Wait, it's fuel injected? Okay, maybe this is an LS swap actually. If this is an LS swap, that is actually the exact amount of power that it will create, right? No, it will create even more power than that. I'm confused about my sexuality. I mean, what? Anyway, this is the Mendelssohn. I forgot to mention the E10 classic 1-ton. I don't know how classic it is, but it does look modified. Like they've got the exhaust off the side. That doesn't seem like the sort of thing that would be standard on this truck. So let's give this thing a fill score. Starting with the styling, this whole like retro classic kind of look thing that people are liking a lot more nowadays, I think this really fits into that category. So I would say that this thing gets a 6 out of 10. It's a little bit dirty. You've got like a cum splatter on the rear windshield. I don't know if that's going to really help resale value. The acceleration is pretty darn heavy. I love it. Let's get to the bottom here, and we're going to turn on the acceleration thing. I want to see what this thing does to 100. Woo! Yes, yes, yes. Drifted. Oh, drifted, drifted, drifted. Yes! Oh, this is still downhill? Whatever. Who cares? It's fine. It's only a little bit downhill. Okay, what is 0 to 100? Oh, that is a lot of wheel spin. And we're still going, still going, still going, still going. And, oh, a 7.8. For back in the day, that thing would have been phenomenal. Though this is a modern engine in this car. So for acceleration, I would say, compared to modern day cars, this is a middle of the road type vehicle, because it is also quite heavy. I would say that this thing gets probably a 6 out of 10 for acceleration. It's really let down by the fact that this thing probably still has its old school radials, cross flies on here. As for the handling, this thing is not particularly great. You turn left, the top of the car turns right. It's pretty wobbly, and I love it. But it is only going to get a 4 out of 10. The fun factor though, with this ginormous engine and those funny ass looking exhausts that you're gonna burn yourself on every time somebody walks by or tries to get in and out of the vehicle, I gotta say that this thing gets maybe 7 out of 10 because you're gonna have a fun time driving this thing every time you're at a traffic light. The cool factor also, I don't know, you're gonna be split. There's gonna be a lot of people that thinks, that person likes their cousin a little too much. And then there's going to be a lot of people that think that this thing just looks like you are trying to have a lot of fun and you are a fun and interesting person. So it gets a 7 out of 10. The trackability, I'm sorry. Drag strip maybe, but everywhere else, it's not going to be a particular beast. This thing gets then a 5 out of 10, which isn't a particularly horrible score, if I'm going to be honest. But let's move on to features. We have 4 seats, which is probably actually more of a practicality thing than anything else. What sort of features do we have? We have a gear lever, which is a step up already. We have what looks to be climate control of some sort, but no radio. Oh dear. This thing gets a 3 out of 10. The comfort is going to be a little bit higher though. It does have operated seats, and this thing does have fairly soft suspension, even if it does have leaf springs in the rear, which does hurt it a little bit. This thing gets a 5 out of 10. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with a straight face. Leaf springs are not comfortable, especially ones from the 70s. The quality of this car is probably going to be pretty high though, even if it is kind of scrapped together. I'm going to say that it's got a trade-off. It's from that era of car where the quality is really good and easy to maintain, but also with that probably homemade custom backyard by a guy named Steve kind of engine swap. I'm going to say that this probably gets somewhere around a 6 out of 10. You know what, 7 out of 10, because it's probably a really decent engine with a pushrod V8. Probably really lowbrow, really easy to keep running type engine. The practicality, this is a 1-tonner, and it does have a ginormous amount of room in the back, with also still having big seats, even if they aren't fold down by the looks of it. This thing is probably gonna get somewhere around an 8 out of 10. The value, this is quite cheap, but also not? I don't know, there's a bit of a trade-off there. I'd give this a 7 out of 10, because it is a utility vehicle still. The ongoing costs, you know what, are probably very low. This is probably a mass production vehicle and a mass produced engine, probably something like an LS1, but not actually. It gets, I'm gonna say, a 9 out of 10. For a brilliant daily score, but the weekend category is hurting a little bit, but still a pretty respectable score. So, here are all the scores put together, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I will be doing the viewer build challenge stream, in the future. That is going to be something that's way too long to put into a video. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this today. I'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye! Hey look, it's a compact van now.